Hey y'all, how y'all doing? How y'all feeling? I hope all is well with you. I'm back with another one for y'all. But before we get into it, please make sure you hit that thumbs up. Make sure your thumbs are lit and subscribe to this channel if you feel led to. Also, hit that notification bell so you're notified whenever I drop a video. I'm trying to keep it consistent with these videos. So, we're going to talk about this one. Now, this young lady is going to tell her story on how she was wrongfully diagnosed for 15 years. But it's not just that, it's the fact that because of the diagnosis that she went through, it caused other situations to happen. But you know what? It's only right for her to tell her story. I mean, who can tell it better? So, without further ado, I'm going to bring this young lady to the stage so we can hear what she has to say. Because um, I was mad for her, but I want y'all to hear it from the horse's mouth.
TikTok for a few years now, and I never thought I would have to use this platform to do a story time. But in 2009, I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. I was told by a neurologist that ultimately I would die from multiple sclerosis. I was also told that because I was African American, I would need to be treated aggressively. I started on medications, including injections 3 times a week. Over the last 15 and a half years, I have aggressively been treated, which ultimately led to me having to have 2 brain surgeries. A year ago, I had a neurologist tell me I don't have MS. I never had MS. And I sit here today officially undiagnosed and 1 year off of all medications, only to be told there's no justice for you. Sorry, that happened. Well, the devil is a lie. God did not keep me through all those chemicals, all those treatments, the 2 brain surgeries, just for these doctors to get away with what has happened to me
I know
for the
that's
past
right.
15 and a half years.
Yep.
I am going to fight for justice for myself, for people who have died and family members thought they died because of a diagnosis that they probably didn't even really have, and nobody questioned it. If I
I was thinking that too. Imagine all the people who may not have really had it and don't want to know because they may have passed under the guise of MS, and it's really all the chemicals that they had to endure. I think she said she had 2 brain surgeries. Insane. And even more insane when you're like, yeah, you really didn't need it. I don't know if whatever she had caused it or if they were acting like they were taking something out. I'm not sure, but I mean, all in all, it was unnecessary.
if I had have died in the last 15 years, my family would have assumed she died from multiple sclerosis. But here's the thing, I never called it multiple sclerosis. I always called it my savior. Yeah, you may not know who I am, but by the time I'm done giving this story time, you will know whose I am. I am not going to stop
I know that's right.
until I get justice. I don't know anything about going viral. I don't know anything about algorithms, but I know God. And I know that this was a fixed fight from day one. So I am going to tell my story. And Friday, March the 28th, it would officially be 1 year when I walked in that doctor's office and my life was turned upside down. So I'm asking you to share this. I'm asking you to hear my story. I'm asking you that if you know of any way for me to get my voice heard, to please reach out to me. because from today, starting today, I am going to do a story time. And by Friday, I will give you all the answers to what took place these past 15 and a half years. Thank you in advance, and to God be the glory. I've been on TikTok for a few years now, and I never thought I would have part one on how I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis 15 and a half years ago, only to be undiagnosed and told I never had MS. September 2009, I was at work, and it was about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and we were getting ready to sit down and do documentation. A coworker had gone out earlier that day for lunch and said, "Hey, I stopped and grabbed some cookies. Would you like a cookie?" I'm like, "Sure." I sat down and I began to do my paperwork. I opened the cookie, and the moment I bit the cookie, it was one of those M&M candy cookies. The moment I bit the cookie, my entire right side of my face went numb. And I'm like, I can't feel my face. I just bit this cookie, and I think maybe I got a little sugar in my tooth because the from my head to my chin completely numb, but only on the right side. So my coworkers are like, "Oh my God, that could be Bell's palsy, and oh my God, you could be having a stroke." And so I'm like, let me make a phone call and get an appointment to the dentist. Luckily, I was about 30 minutes away from my dentist's office, and I called and told them what had happened, and they said, "Come on in." So I went to the dentist's office. I got there about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. When I got to the dentist, they did x-ray. He did a complete mouth check, and he's like, "No, we find nothing, but this is concerning. You might want to call your primary." The whole time I'm like, "Call my primary because I bit a cookie." Okay. So again, my primary happened to be 15 minutes away. Called the primary in the parking lot of the dentist's office, and he's like, "Come on in." I'm like, "Okay." So I go to the doctor's office. Get to the doctor's office. This guy has been my primary since I was 18 years old. So I'm going to listen, whatever he tells me. And I get there. He's like, "Okay, what did the dentist say?" He said, "Nothing, did x-rays, come see you." He's like, "Okay." So told me to tell him the story. I told him. He goes, "Hold on, let me call a friend of mine. He's a neurologist." And I'm like, "You're calling a neurologist because I bit a cookie and lost feeling in my face?" Okay. So he called his neurologist friend, and he got me an appointment. The appointment was scheduled for the next day. Go to the neurologist, and when I get to the neurologist, he's like, "Tell me what happened." And I'm like, "Well, I bit the cookie, went to the dentist, said no, went to the primary, said nothing he knew. Coworker said it could be a stroke, could be Bell's palsy." He said, "What will make you think that?" I'm like, "I don't know what made them think that. I guess because my face is numb, but they're just reaching, and I was reaching, but we don't know." He said, "Okay, well, sounds like we need to get an MRI." Okay. So I'm like, "Okay, no problem." Go back out to the desk. Get to the desk. He's originally said it's going to take about 2 weeks to get you in. I get to the desk. Secretary says, "Hey, we have a cancellation for tomorrow morning. Would you like to go tomorrow?" I'm like, "Absolutely, no problem." She scheduled the appointment. He said, "I will reach out to you in about a week and a half with the results of the MRI." I said, "Okay." The next day, I get the MRI. After the MRI, my husband and I went to Red Lobster. We're sitting in Red Lobster, and my phone rings. When my phone rings, it's the neurology office. First thing I said is, "There's something wrong." He said he would call me in a week and a half. He is calling me the same day of my MRI. He said, "Hi, I have your test results back from your MRI this morning. I need you to come into the office tomorrow morning at 7:30. So now I'm panicking because I'm like, "Wait a minute. The office doesn't even open, and you want me to come in at 7:30? Okay, we'll be there." Get to the neurology office the next morning at 7:30. He takes us in his office, and this is where my nightmare began. Part two on how 15 and a half years ago I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. Only a year ago to find out that I don't have multiple sclerosis, nor did I ever have multiple sclerosis. So as I said, at 7:30, we arrived to the doctor's office. We went into the doctor's personal office, and he turned his monitor around and he said, "This is your brain. This is your lesion. It is at the top of your brain stem. This is why your face is numb. You have multiple sclerosis. This is what ultimately you will die from." And he said it just like that. There is no cure for this. However, because multiple sclerosis runs rampant in African Americans, we're going to have to treat you aggressively, which means
Now I get being honest and not sugarcoating stuff for the medical professional or professionals because you don't want to give false hope. But to be like, this is what's gonna kill you. Uh, I mean, I think the choice of words weren't necessary. It's not what you say, it's how you say it. You could have just been like, and a lesion like this is fatal. Or you know what I'm saying? Like to be like the way he worded it is crazy to me. Very impassionate, very lackluster. And yeah, it's just weird. But let's let her keep going.
means we're going to have to start you on quite a bit of meds, including a injection one time a week. I'll have the nurse set this injection up to be delivered. It comes straight from the pharmaceutical company. It's not something that you can get at the pharmacy. It will come on ice and you will get a month's supply, which is 4 shots. He said, "I also want you to come in next week for your first round of steroid infusions. We will place the IV in your arm. You will keep the IV in your arm. We will wrap it up. And then you'll come back 2 days and do an infusion. They're about an hour and a half long each. And we'll take the IV out your arm on the third day. Do you have any questions?" Yes. So you're saying I'm dying? No, you're not dying today, but yes, this is what you will die from. Ultimately, you will die from multiple sclerosis. It is at the top of your brainstem. If it is to get bigger, you can be blind, you can become paralyzed, it, anything can happen. So we need to get on this right away. Okay. So you can head out to the desk, schedule your appointment for your infusions next week, and then follow up with me in 3 weeks. No problem. Shake his hand, go out to the desk, schedule the appointment. Walk outside, get to my car, open the passenger door, and then I just fell to the ground crying. I started crying. I was hysterical. I couldn't breathe. I had just been given a death sentence. So I thought. I called my mom and I tell my mom what the doctor had just said. My husband's trying to console me, but yet he doesn't know what to say. He's shocked as well. I tell my mom, she's shocked, she's crying. I call my twin sister and she's like, "Oh, wow, this is crazy." She was so positive. She didn't cry on the phone with me. She was like, "God got you, you got this, you got this, we're going to beat this. Whose report are you going to believe? We're going to trust God." And I'm like, "You're right, you're right." I'm saying you're right, but at the same time, I'm saying I am going to die. I can't feel the right side of my face and I'm going to die. But I'm not going to die. It was weird. I can't really explain it. Like and share for part 3. Part 3 on how 15 and a half years ago I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, only for 1 year ago to be told that I do not have multiple sclerosis, nor have I ever had multiple sclerosis. So I go home, and my next thing is to figure out how am I going to talk to my children about my new diagnosis. I had children in elementary school, middle school, and high school. I didn't know much about multiple sclerosis myself, so there wasn't a lot I could tell them. I was just going to let them know that I had gone to the doctor and that I would be on some new medications, and we would just have to take it day by day because I didn't know what life was going to look like. So I went for my first round of infusions the following week. It was horrible. My mouth tastes like metals. It was pure steroids. Um, it was horrible. I developed a prednisone phase. I had insomnia. I was eating like crazy. And I just didn't know what to do with myself. I called my job and I took a few weeks off because I needed to know, like, what is all of this going to look like. I had to pick up 7 prescriptions from the pharmacy, which were all in pill form, and then I received the injections that the doctor was talking about. I started to inject on Fridays because I didn't work the weekend. Some of the side effects was flu-like symptoms, body chills, is what the paperwork said. So I would inject on Friday evenings to allow myself time to kind of get used to the injection. The first 2 shots were okay. I didn't feel much, not much at all. The third one, I was pretty sick. Um, Flu-like symptoms, could hardly get out the bed, um, could hardly move for about 2 days. The fourth injection, I was sick. I was sick. Called the office. They're like, take NyQuil, any medication that deals with flu-like symptoms. So I'm like, okay. So the next injection, I took the NyQuil. It kind of helped, but not a lot. Within 3 months of injecting, I was getting sicker and sicker. I had gone back to work. I had tried to, go back to a normal life, thinking that this would pass. Called my neurologist and I'm like, hey, I noticed that, my body is hurting a lot more during the day. On the days that I don't inject, my body is killing me. And he's like, oh, it'll get better, you know. So 3 to 4 months, it was only getting worse. So I called the neurology office and I said, we need to, talk. I can't do this. I have a job, I have children, I have a husband. I can't come home from work and cook, clean, like I'm not able to function. He goes, well, we can do another round of steroids and we can think about increasing or changing your injection. So I'm like, okay. So I want you guys to know that my very first appointment was in his office at 7:30 in the morning. So there was no one there. This next appointment that I had with him was 11 o'clock in the morning. And I walked into the doctor's office and I saw people in wheelchairs. I saw people with canes, walkers. I even saw people pushing wheelchairs with their mouth. And I turned around and I walked out. And I said, there's no way this is what I have to look forward to. No. So what I just saw is ultimately what's going to happen to me. And I freaked out. Like and share for part 4. Part 4 on how 15 and a half years ago I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. Only a year ago, to be told, I do not have multiple sclerosis, nor had I ever had multiple sclerosis. So I freaked out and I went to my car and I started crying. And I could not believe that that is what I was going to be looking forward to. So I began to pray. And I'm like, Lord, you're going to have to give me a double portion of strength because I got to be strong for my kids. You have to. You have to give me complete healing because I know, I know I have a job to do in the ministry. Again, I was very active in my church. Um, and I just kept saying, God, you know, it's your will, but I need a double portion of strength. And so I go back in the office and I go in the room with the doctor and I say to him, like, okay, how long before, you know, I'm in a wheelchair? And he looked me dead in my face and said, you will be in a wheelchair before your next birthday. Hmm, okay. I'll be 36 years old in a wheelchair. He goes, you'll never be able to have children anymore. You know, do not get pregnant. Um, if you were to give birth, you will die because it will be too much trauma to your body. I said, okay, we're going to continue on this medication path. You just started, um, but we are going to add more infusions. Okay. Over the next, rather, 5, 6 years, I was hospitalized at least 8 times a year. At least 8 times a year. And every time I was hospitalized, the term was, you are having a MS flare. This is a multiple sclerosis flare. This is a flare. It was so much of a flare, I ultimately had to resign from my job and apply for Social Security. I couldn't drive. I could barely walk. My kids were bathing me. Now we're going to 3 times a week injections. Now we're going to every 6 month infusions. Constantly in the hospital. I developed diabetes. I developed a heart rate baseline at 114. I developed migraines. My life was changing before my eyes. But the one thing was, I wasn't in a wheelchair by my birthday. I was not in a wheelchair by my birthday. I continued to trust God, and I continued to take the medicine. One day I woke up and I couldn't see. My eyesight was gone. And once again, I panicked. It gets worse, you guys.
I was born to walk through the fire.
I love you, Lord, and I lift my voice to worship you. Oh, my soul, rejoice. Take joy, my King, in what you hear. Let it be a sweet, sweet sound in your ear. This is one of the songs I used to often sing when I was admitted into the hospital. Growing up as a child in the church, I used to hear the mothers sing Amazing Grace and Hold to His Hand. And last night I was lying in bed and an old hymn came to me. A charge to keep I have, a God to glorify, a never dying soul to save that fitted for the sky. I'm going to finish this race, you guys. And I'm going to do it with boldness. And I am going to do it with Christ. Telling this story is not easy because knowing now that I never had MS, thinking about all the things that happened to me is painful. Um, One of the questions or statements that was made was to get a second opinion or a third opinion. The backstory to that is that the doctor who diagnosed me, he was only my neurologist for 6 years. And he moved to another practice, so I was sent to another neurologist who reviewed all of my medical records and said, yep, you have MS. And this neurologist added another injection. 5 years later, he retired, and I got a new neurologist who went right along with, let me give you another MRI. Um, Came back and said, you know what? I've been looking at all your medical records and I looked at your MRI, we need to change this medication. So in the course of 15 years, I literally had over 20 neurologists who looked at my documentation and continued to aggressively treat me. This includes the 5 neurologists who all were in the same practice that I was transferred to. One.
See, the thing with that is, I look at the medical field similar to the court system. When you go into court, or if you ever look at a court case, judges tend not to override something that another judge ruled. Um, they'll ride alongside with it unless it's like egregious situations. But I can see the doctors probably not really giving it a good look, just because it was like, well, another doctor looked at it. I'm gonna trust their judgment. I'm gonna trust their, whatever. Um, I think they dropped the ball, and I think it probably happens often, much more often than we talk about. It's unfortunate, but all these doctors, for it to have gone through and nobody, like, they fumbled the ball. Nobody caught it. That's sad.
One after the other, all saying the same thing. When I went to the hospital and the neurology team would come and they would say, we reviewed your chart and we decided we want to do this or we want to do that. When you have that many doctors all saying you have MS, this is a flare, but we're going to treat you. I remember one day getting to the emergency room and I was in so much pain. I begged those doctors. I said, whatever you do, save my life. I have children. I have a husband. And I remember getting down on my knees on the side of the bed because the next morning, my daughter was going to be graduating from high school. And they told me I was not going to be able to attend. And I called on the name of God. And I said, Lord, I need to move the goalposts. I need to get out of here. I need to see my daughter walk that stage. 3 hours before graduation, they discharged me. My daughter was the MC for her 12th grade graduation. She was graduating with distinction. And I sat there, and my daughter read her welcome address. And in her welcome address, she said, my entire high school life, my mother has suffered from multiple sclerosis. But she has been here for me every step of the way. And she began to cry. And she said, my mom was discharged from the hospital this morning just so she could see me walk the stage. And you guys, I cried so hard because I didn't know my daughter was going to say that. And the entire room stood up. The entire auditorium stood up and clapped. There were so many moments like this one that I went through over the past 15 years that I know it had to be nobody but God. And as I continue to tell this story, I told you, you may not know who I am, but you will know whose I am. Part 5 of being undiagnosed after 15 years. So I wake up and I can't see anything. So I'm yelling. I'm yelling for whoever to come into the room. And so my husband comes into the room and I'm telling him, like, I can't see. I can't see. I need you to call the doctor's office. So he gets the neurology office on the phone and they're asking me, like, okay, what happened? I'm like, nothing. I went to bed. I had just injected that night with the medication and I woke up, no vision. And they're like, okay, well, that's typical, you can wait it out, for about 15 minutes, call us back, or come in and we can immediately start infusions because that's what we do. We try to boost your immune system. So I'm like, okay, I'm coming. I'm not waiting. I'm coming in. So my husband gets me there and they start the infusions. Maybe 45 minutes into the infusion, I can see, but it's very blurry, very blurry. I did not regain my full vision for 5 days. After 5 days, I was able to see. They sent me to the eye doctor, and I had an eye exam at the time to see, like, okay, is this anything dealing with my retina or my vision, or because I had diabetes, did I start developing vision issues because of the diabetes, which was brought on by the prednisone? Turned out no. I wear glasses now, but then I wasn't. I didn't have any vision issues. And so finally regained, my full vision. The conversation came up again. Okay, let's talk medication. Let's see what we could do, so this doesn't happen again. So I started doing prednisone tapers at home. Now, being on that amount of prednisone, I had gotten up to almost 300 pounds. So imagine what that does to your mental. You are in constant pain. You are now almost 300 pounds. You can barely do your daily chores, yet alone, you understand, even feel good about yourself. And this is what I was facing. But I just kept pressing on. I had some awesome men of God, women of God praying for me. Family support is so important. Now by this time, I'm going to see another neurologist and another PA, but they're in the same building. The doctor I was seeing was no longer there. I found out at my next appointment that I had to get another doctor. So I just was like, oh, okay, well, you guys can let me see whoever is accepting patients in this practice because I had been there. And I felt like they were on it, you know. I felt like, okay, every time I had a flare, every time something happened to me, I'm getting the best care because every time I call, they is on it, you know. And I might be in pain and I may spend some time in the hospital, but I'm a bounce back, you know. I'm a bounce back because they are attentive. No, I never saw my actual MRI. I saw the notes from the MRIs. And each time I would have a major flare, they will order an MRI. Each time they came back, they added another medication because they were saying, okay, now this lesion is getting bigger. That's why your eyesight went, but the prednisone brought it back down. So now we got to find a medication to put you on to keep it that way. Okay, no problem. I'm all for it because again, they attentive. I'm in I'm getting in my appointments right away. When I get to the hospital, you know, the hospital's corresponding with my neurologist and it's like we got a team going here. So I'm like, okay. So one day, start feeling major pain in the right side of my face. And I'm talking, this was different. This was a different kind of pain. This was a pain that nothing touched. I don't care what they gave me. It did not go away. It didn't go away. If I brushed my teeth, it hurt. If I blink my eyes, it hurt. If I turn my head, it hurt. If I put an earring, this was a different kind of pain. Okay. So now I'm like, oh, here we go. This is what they've been talking about. The MS is flared to the point now where it's real bad. Oh man. So I'm like, okay, let me call and get into the neurology office. So I get in and they're like, I have to send you over to a specialist because this sounds like, you know, you're developing this disease called trigeminal neuralgia, which is brought on by MS. So when you have MS, sometimes you develop other neurological diseases. Okay, so what do we do? Because this is painful and I can't take it. Nothing is working. I mean, I'm screaming, I'm hollering. I was falling out. My kids coming home from school, my husband coming home. I'm passed out on the floor. I don't even know I'm on the floor. I'm in the closet, passed out. Don't know how long I've been down there. I mean, my life was being flipped upside down. And now I'm told you got to go see a different kind of neurologist now because this has got real serious. Like and share for part 6. Part 6 of being undiagnosed after 15 years. So, as I said, they told me I needed to go see a different neurologist. So, they scheduled the appointment. I get to this neurologist. This particular neurologist specialized in many different types of neurological diseases, but trigeminal neuralgia was one of the main things that he specialized in. And we sat in his office, talked. He said to me, I've had a chance to look over your medical history. And man, you know, have had quite a journey. Um, this disease that you have is typical of people who have MS and who tends to be on a lot of medication. Over the years, different things begin to develop. There's a surgery, but it is a brain surgery. This surgery um, is not too invasive now because we've come a long way and we have a different way that we can do this surgery. So I'm like, okay, so that's it. That there's nothing else. You're just gonna operate on my brain, is what you're saying. He's like, that's the only way. He's like, this could correct the problem, but I am going to tell you that sometimes people have this procedure and it is good for a year. Sometimes they come back every 5 years and we have to repeat it. Sometimes every 6 years, sometimes in 6 months. But it's a surgery that, we can perform. And I'm like, okay. He's like, now, there's two ways we can do this. We can shave your head and cut your hair off in the front and open up your head the old fashioned way, or we can cut three holes right here in your face and go up to your brain. So I'm looking at him and I'm like, let me call you back. Let me schedule another appointment because I gotta go home and think this thing over. And so he said, okay, I understand. So I went home and I'm like, okay, you mean to tell me you want to go through my face up to my brain? Now we all know brain surgery is scary. Anytime somebody open your head, anything can happen. So I'm just like, okay, is the pain is painful, but is it something I could tolerate, or should I just really have this brain surgery? Well, this pain was only getting worse, y'all. It wasn't getting no better. So I'm like, okay, we're gonna do it. We're gonna go through the face. All right. They scheduled a surgery. We go for the day of surgery. Same day now. I wake up after going, and the doctor's like, hey, we weren't able to do the surgery. I'm like, huh, what? He's like, well, the operating room that we had you in, it didn't have the x-ray machine we needed for your face. And every time we got here, we got stuck. So we couldn't get up to your brain. So we had to stop. He says, so I had to stop the procedure and we're going to reschedule. So now I'm like, oh my God, what am I doing? Like, okay, these people playing in my face, literally playing
Yeah,
in my
that's
face.
crazy.
And I'm like,
I would have been pissed. Why'd you even start the surgery if you knew you didn't have all the things necessary to do the surgery? So you wasted my time and my life, and like, oh, I would have been mad.
but it hurt. And I need this to stop. And he said, this is the only way it's going to stop. So to explain the pain, it felt like I was being electrocuted like every 15 minutes. I was like you could be sitting there and it didn't matter where you was, restaurant, church, it didn't matter. That's how painful it was. And it was hitting like all of a sudden. It was unexpected. You did not see it coming. So scheduled it, go back for the second time. And this was in a week's time. Um, and he was successful. It happened. Okay, so now the recovery process. The recovery process was really bad. Like really bad. Like I couldn't sleep for like 4 nights because it was just so painful. And now I'm like, what did they do? Like, what did these people do to my brain? Because my head is killing me. And I'm calling the office like, yeah, something's not right. I think y'all messed up. I think something's wrong. And I ended up like one night having like 45 minutes of like pain that I thought I was gonna die from. Like serious pain. And then boom, it went away. Just like that. Never had another pain in that side of my head at all. Like it went away. It disappeared. So now I'm like, he fixed me. All right. So now I just got to deal with the body pain and the MS. And then it gets worse. Like and share for part 7. Part 7 of being undiagnosed after 15 years. So after the brain surgery, we went to Montgomery, Alabama. It was the first time I had traveled, actually, since being diagnosed. And before the whole computer where you could log in and see your medical records and stuff, when I actually first got diagnosed in 2009, I started journaling, and I would keep notes on everything, like what I took, the time I took it, and if it gave me a reaction, what
That's
changed
good.
when.
That was
Never
smart.
knowing that these little journals, I got these little books, would come in handy. And we went to Montgomery, and I took my journal with me. Once we arrived, I was okay for about 4 hours. And then I started to feel some pain. So I'm like, oh, okay. It's the heat, you know. They always said when you get hot, you know, your body responds. So I'm like, okay, maybe because it's so hot, it's different temperature. And it just kept getting worse. And it kept getting worse. And it kept getting worse. And my husband like, well, you know, it was a long ride. Now it could just be the ride. I'm like, nah, that's a little different. You know, I need some medical attention. So I get to the hospital. Now I'm in what I consider full blown flare. I cannot get out of pain. I couldn't get comfortable. So the doctors are like, you know, what's your medical history? So I'm telling them I happen to have a journal. This particular journal only had like a month worth of data, but this had data since 2009. So I'm telling them everything. And now that I look back, these doctors kept coming to me like, so you have multiple sclerosis and you got diagnosed in 2009. Okay, so and what kind of treatment are you on? So I'm telling them. And in the meantime, they decide to give me an IV with some morphine to get me comfortable. So I'm getting comfortable. And they're coming back, and he's like, okay, we got a neurologist coming down, and you know, he wants to talk to you because we really not sure how to treat you, is basically what they were saying. We don't know what to do. So he comes down and he's questioning now. So what was your first, you know, your first sign of multiple sclerosis? I'm looking at him like, okay, son, look, we ain't got time to go through all that. I'm out of town. I need you to get me right so I can go. He's asking me these questions about what I had for my first med. Just questions I wasn't used to. So I responded and said, listen, if you don't know how to treat me, reach out to my neurologist and he can tell you what it is that he gives me when I have this type of flare. It's in my medical records. I can't think of the cocktail, but I'm sure if you call them, he'll tell you. So he's like, okay, that's what we're going to do. Took him like 2 hours. Finally, he came back. He's like, we spoke with your neurologist. He told us to give you this. We're going to give you this cocktail and send you on your way. Okay. And they did just that. Gave me everything that I would typically get here, which was basically an infusion, but it had certain medications in it to kind of give me a jump start. So they give it to me, and I was fine. But once I got back home, I was like, yeah, nah, I'm never traveling again because I don't got time for doctors not to know how to treat me. You know, I can't do it. So after being home for a few days, I started getting sick again. And then this was an everyday thing, every day, every day, every day, until I started getting to the point where I could not control my bowels. I couldn't control my bladder. And I'm like, what is going on? So call the neurology office and I tell them what's going on. Now, mind y'all, I am a young married young lady. I have kids. This was not pleasing, okay? This was embarrassing. It was hurtful, to say the least, to see what I was going through right in front of my family. They were very supportive and very loving, but again, as a person, you looking at yourself and you feel like you are deteriorating. And so Now the neurologist is like, okay, yeah, we downhill now, It won't be long. No, won't be long. So we're gonna give you, we're gonna switch now and we're gonna put you on this injection. And this injection, it should kind of give you, a little bit more comfort and maybe, add a few more years to your life. Okay. So I'm in the bed one day and now I can't walk. Can't get up, can't do nothing. I mean, started a new injection. My kids bathing me in the bed, my husband bathing me in the bed, my sister coming over, my mother coming over. After about 2 weeks of that, I got one of my journals and I started writing my own obituary. I wrote my own obituary. And I remember two of my kids coming in the room. And they're like, Mom, what you doing? You watching TV? I said, no, I'm just sitting here journaling, writing down some stuff. And they're like, what you writing? What you writing about? I'm nothing. I didn't want to show them because they were young, They didn't understand that. So my daughter, she grabs the book and she threw it. She threw it at me and she come out the room. And about 15 minutes later, my phone rang. It was my mother. And she's like, what are you doing? And I'm like, nothing. She's like, no, what are you doing? And I'm like, nothing. She's like, your daughter just called me. And I started crying. Why are you writing your obituary? She said. Why? And I'm like, Ma, I just felt like I needed to get it out the way. She's like, listen, let me tell you something. You shake this mess off. We not doing that. No, cut it out. And I'm like, you don't know how I feel. Like, you don't know what this feels like. You don't understand the journey. I'm tired of my kids, watching me suffer like this. And it's just I'm prepared myself. I gotta prepare myself. And my mother was like, stop it. And I mean, stop it now. She didn't say it in them words. she put some colorful language in there. But she like, we don't give up. We not giving up. Like, you've come too far to give up. And so I want you to stop. I want you to shake this off. We're going to figure this thing out. But do not sit in that bed and give up. Don't do it. I'm not going to let you. And I'm like, okay. So I began to, instead of writing, my obituary, I started writing sermons. I started getting in the Word and I started writing sermons. And God touched my body and He healed my body. And I started to speak on Sundays at church. And I started to feel good about myself. I started feeling positive. I just was thanking God for His amazing grace and just how far He had brought me. And the more I praised, the more the devil began to fight me. Like and share for part 8. Let the church say amen. Everybody say amen. I know y'all waiting on part 8, and I promise y'all it's coming. But today I am going to take a moment and give God His due praise. On today, March the 28th, I am officially 1 year undiagnosed. And to God be the glory. Let me tell y'all, if no other video go viral, today I want to open up testimony service. I want y'all to get in them comments and text amen. And I want y'all to tell how God has delivered you. I don't care what it is. I want to see the testimonies. I want people to know that God is still on the throne. I want people to know that God is still in the healing business. I want people to know that God is still in the deliverance business. Amen. And we are going to show up and show out.
I love to let her finish, but she got music playing in the back, and I don't know if it's going to affect it, so I'm just going to keep going. But amen to that.
Part 8 of being undiagnosed after 15 years. So in 2018, the pain returned in my head. So I reached out to the neurologist who had performed the surgery in 2016. So the operation lasted 2 years. And the disease again was called trigeminal neuralgia. And I was told that multiple sclerosis often causes this disease to develop. And so I met with the neurologist who performed the surgery in 2016. And he was like, one of the options is we can go in on the left side and do the surgery this time. And I think that you'll be a good candidate for it. And you may never need this surgery again if we do the other side. So I prayed about it and I was like, okay. Because again, I was in a lot of pain. I'm talking a lot of pain. So he performed the surgery. The recovery was the same. It was painful, but it didn't last long. So, I just kind of continued to take my medications. I still was in and out of the hospital for what they called MS flares. Um, and then I had to schedule a follow up with the neurology office that I had been with since 2009. When I called the neurology office, she said, do you have the same insurance? And I'm like, no, I switched jobs. So my health insurance has changed. And I told her what I had, and she said, we don't take that. So I'm like, yeah, but I've been coming here since 2009. I know y'all got to make an exception. And she was like, unfortunately, we can't. This practice does not take that insurance. I'm like, so what do I do? She was like, you need to contact your primary, and your primary will have to fill your prescriptions for your MS until you can get a new neurologist. So I was like, okay, this is going to be crazy because I've been here for all these years. So I wasn't looking forward to it because, again, I have been in this practice for so many years. And I felt like their attentiveness, their willingness to, seek out other medications was just them treating me and giving me the best care. So I went to the primary. She gave me a referral to a new neurologist. When I called the office for the new neurologist, it was a 4-month wait. So my primary said, okay, I'll write the prescriptions until you can get in to your first appointment. And this is when it got real. Part 8 of being undiagnosed. Part 9 of being undiagnosed after 15 years. So I called and scheduled the appointment in October of 2023. I could not get in to see the neurologist until March of 2024. And it was a regular day. I was at work. Typically, if I was going to go and see a neurologist and we had to make decisions, I would always take my husband with me. But I was just going to do a quick meet and greet with my new neurologist. So I went on my own. And I left work and I got to the office and they took me in the room. So I'm anticipating I'll be here about 15 minutes, give a little backstory. She's had 3 months to read over all my medical records. So the doctor walks in and she's like, "Hi, how are you?" I'm like, "I'm good. How are you?" And she's like, "Okay, so tell me a little bit about, your MS." And so I started telling her, in 2009, I was at work, I bit a cookie, my face went numb. I went through that whole spiel. So she said, okay, so what's going on with your eyesight? I'm like, what do you mean what's going on with my eyesight? Your vision, tell me about your vision. I'm like, you mean today? Like, what's wrong with my eyesight today? Nothing. So she's still looking at me and she goes, can you give me a little bit more backstory on the surgeries you had? I said, yeah. The neurologist said I had developed trigeminal neuralgia and I had to have the surgeries because I was in a lot of pain. So she's like, okay. So now I'm looking at her saying, all right, we're not going to be a patient here. Okay. You are a little strange. Um, we're gonna go ahead and finish this up. I'm gonna chit chat with you, and then I'm gonna go find me a neurologist because you are acting crazy. And she comes over and she's like, "Okay, I want to do a physical exam. You know, walk in a straight line. You know, she wanted to listen to my heart, listen to my lungs, wanted to check my extremities, and see if I can move my arms, move my legs." And I'm like, "Okay." Normal. It's a typical neurology exam. If you've ever been to a neurologist, they kind of do like um, an exam just to see where you are with your motor skills and etc. And so she sat down and she's like, "So you work?" I'm like, "Yep, just left work." hmm She's like, "So the medications, can you tell me everything that you take?" So I ran down the list of everything I was taking, and she was like, "Okay, what about this prescription?" And she's just start picking apart each prescription. And again, I'm going, "Look, lady, I just got off of work. Um, not really sure where you're headed with this line of question about this medication, but it's in my chart, you know. You got to go through and read, you know, my documentation." And I said, "Have you had a chance to look at my charts?" And she said, "I have." And I looked at her and she looked at me. And I'm like, "Are you going to say anything?" And this conversation, I was not prepared for. Part 10 of being undiagnosed after 15 years. So, as I said, the doctor was acting very strange. Um, she sat down and she looked over at me and she said, "I have to tell you this. You don't have MS." So, the first thing I said was, "What are you talking about?" Again, she was acting strange. So now I'm like, "Oh, she don't even know what she doing because she telling me I don't have MS after 15 years." So I said, what would make you say I don't have MS? I've been treated for 15 years. She was like, I'm so sorry to tell you this, but you don't." So I'm like, how I've been seen by how many doctors? And they've all said I had MS. So let me say this, you guys. I did see the question of why you didn't get a second or a third opinion. I did. But the thing is, they were all neurologists in the same practice, except for two. So I actually had five neurologists all say I had MS. And I had all five neurologists to prescribe medications from pharmaceutical companies. Yeah, they stood 10 toes in that I had MS. Not one person except for this lady. She went on to say, "When I read your medical records, I said this poor girl will be dead in about a year. But when I looked at your MRIs, they didn't match. So I said, there's no way because these doctors filled out paperwork for FMLA. They filled out paperwork for me to get Social Security. I mean, I had two brain surgeries. Like, huh? So you saying I don't have MS? She was like, no. All the medications that you were unwarranted. And I'm like,
Damn.
you want me to believe that for 15 years I was being used as a guinea pig and did not have MS? She said, you don't have MS. I'm like, well, how do you explain all the MS flares, which are documented from the hospital, from the emergency rooms, from all my visits to the office to get infusions? MS flares. She said that is just language. And at this time, my stomach is flipping upside down.
With me the most powerful prayer for fighting every battle, seen and unseen. Always remember this verse when you are in the middle of a battle or a storm in your life. Let's take a moment to align our hearts with God. Exodus 14:14. The Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still. No matter what you are facing, remember that God is in control. He is leading you through every challenge, every hardship, and every battle. Pray Exodus 14:14.
Good morning, TikTok family. First, I would like to say thank you to all my supporters. I didn't know I was going to have such a response when I started this journey. But I thank you for your kind words and all your support. I thank you for standing with me and trying to get justice for myself. But I want you to know that as I read the comments, I began to realize that there is a lot of injustice out there. There is a lot of people that have been done wrong by doctors, and doctors are getting away with it. There are people who are critically ill at the hands of doctors, and they can't get justice because they've been told that they reached the statute of limitation. Doctors know how long a person has to file a lawsuit. So what they do is, if you don't know, they continue to treat because they know that they have passed the time to where they're going to be sued. That is why this went on for me with me for over 15 years. And to say that, oh well, there is no justice for you because you only have 1 year to figure out you were being misdiagnosed. But you know, as I read the comments, I realized this fight isn't about Lorette. This fight isn't about me. This fight is about every last one of us. Every comment, every family member that people spoke about that never received justice, something has to be done. So God has placed it on my heart to start a movement, a Make It Right movement. And this movement is going to start today. I know that I was supposed to finish my story time, but God has shifted what it is that He will have me to do. Proverbs 31:9 says, open thy mouth, judge righteously, and plead the case of the poor and the needy. The word open your mouth means speak up for justice. And so what I am going to do is I am going to make noise. I'm going to speak up. I am going to start a movement that is going to hold doctors accountable. I am going to fight for a law to protect the people. We will no longer protect these doctors. We are going to be heard. I will not be silenced. I will not be silenced. I am going to do this. I am also going to start a foundation, and this is going to be called the Make It Right Foundation. This foundation is going to financially support people who have been victims of medical malpractice and they have needs. I'm asking each and every one of you to support this. I will not, and I do mean I will not let you down. God is with me. I am going to take each and every last one of you on this journey. I will update and share every step of the way because we will. And when I say we, I mean every last one of us. We will be heard. We will not be silenced. These doctors will not continue to use us as guinea pigs and live their best life, and we continue to suffer because statute of limitations have been reached. I have created a GoFundMe. The link is in my bio. I am asking that you stand with me as I take on this journey to hold doctors accountable. Again, I want to say thank you for the outpour of love. And I also want to say I am praying for the ones who are critically ill and have been misdiagnosed, but the medications have made them very sick. And this is what really has made me say, Lorette, this justice is no longer about you. You have the activity of your limbs. You're able to get up and move around, but other people are not. So fight for them. Fight for them. What happened to you, it is awful. It's awful. But God kept me. And He kept me to be the voice for those that cannot speak for themselves. So this fight is for you. It's for everyone that has lost a loved one, who questioned their loved one's diagnosis. It's for you, for the ones that are at home caring for a loved one because a doctor gave them medications that put them in wheelchairs and made them bedridden. That is not okay. And we are going to let the world know that is not okay. Doctors can no longer hide behind the law. And I know this is not going to be an easy fight, but because I have God on my side, it will be a fixed fight. So remember my face, because I am going to take this nationally, starting today, because people all over the world are being affected by this. Lawyers are afraid to go up against doctors when they have the documentation that shows that it was a medical malpractice. But instead, they say, I'm sorry. But it is what it is. We no longer will take that. So I'm asking you to stand with me. I'm asking you to support me. And I'm asking you to fight with me. This is something we can do. And we're going to make it happen. So please support and continue to pray for me as I will continue to pray for you. Stay blessed.
That is so crazy. This is entirely insane. For her to have gone through all of this for 15 years and the statute to catch that they misdiagnosed you is a year. That's not enough time. You still wrapped up in, disbelief of your diagnosis. I can't believe that the statute is a year. That's way too little time. Way, way, way too little time. I am glad that she turned, you know, the situation around, or I will say God turned the situation around for her good. And it's crazy how things work out, ain't it? Here she is, probably feeling away because she's like, I've been, with this doctor for the last 15 years. We get comfortable, we get complacent, so we don't want change. But sometimes change is exactly what we need. Because had she not gone to this new doctor, ain't no telling how much longer she would have been being prescribed these meds. And I think she said the doctor said in another year she would have been gone. So it was meant for her insurance to change. Like, everything happens for a reason. I've always believed that. It was meant for her insurance to change, and it was meant for them to reject her. And what oftentimes we be thinking, you know, is a bad situation, God always turns around for our good. So it ended up being where she's, with this doctor, and she's even judging the doctor. She's looking at this doctor like, this big dummy. I can't wait to get from in front of her so I can go find another doctor. She's asking me all these questions like, did you not check my chart? Only for the doctor to be inquiring because she didn't believe the diagnosis to begin with, and to know that they did all those MRIs and not once showed her any of them, any of the results. They just typed up a synopsis or whatever, and that was what they read. You know what it kind of gives me? It reminds me of doctors in the pharmaceutical companies. You know how it was a big thing where doctors were getting incentives to prescribe certain medications to people. So they started wrongfully diagnosing people. It kind of gives that to me. I don't know whether there was an incentive or just the doctor knew that they would have a lifetime client till they croaked, which is sad because why would you do that to people? And they wonder why. And they wonder why. People, especially people of color, do not trust the doctors. Oh, take this shot, take this med, take this, take that. And y'all are using people as guinea pigs. Like, it's crazy that in this day and age, it is still happening. It's still happening. And God knows how many more people it's happening to. She said there were a lot of people in the comment section that made her realize that it's happening more often than not. So the fact that they're still doing this and they're able to get away with it because they have this short window of a year to get caught is crazy. Because in that year, they're making sure you're spiraling enough that your focus is your health, and not making sure that you know they're lying. And she said she did go get a second, third, fourth, and a fifth opinion, but the problem is it's all within. It was, I think she said, three of them were within the same practice. Problem with that is, again, going back to like judges, I feel like doctors kind of operate in the same, like, in the same way, where most of them will not go against what another doctor prescribed, especially if they're in the same practice. They probably know what the other one's doing. But I think probably altogether, it's a few and far of them in between that you'll find that actually operate out of morality. Like, they'll look at something like, this ain't right. Like, and I think that's what she got with that other doctor. For all of them to look at the MRIs and let this go on, and the doctor takes a once over and realizes that she was misdiagnosed, those other doctors knew. They knew. They let her sit there, go through two brain surgeries. Well, three technically, because the first one they fumbled talking about they didn't have the MRI machine. Um, but to make her go through all of that, all of the pain, taking meds, having all these adverse reactions to them for nothing is insane. There should be no statute of limitation on that. It is, ooh, this stuff boils my blood. Because I can only imagine if it was someone that I love going through that, I would want vengeance. Okay. But y'all let me know what y'all think of this story time. This, again, is insane. And y'all can look her up if you guys want to support. She's calling her movement the Make It Right movement. I'll see if I can get the link for her GoFundMe. and post it in the description. If not, you can find her on TikTok. Her name is Make It Right Movement. And you can go and support there. You could also find her as Soul to Soul. Soul, SOUL, number 2, and then SOUL_74. So you can probably search either one of those names, Make It Right Movement or Soul to Soul _74, and find her. But again, y'all let me know what y'all think. This is insane. It's sad that we're in the 21st century and still going through this. But if you know, you know. Let me know what y'all think in the comment section. Let's keep the conversation going, and I will catch y'all in the next one. Peace.
Listen, I like chocolate girl, all shades, different flavors. She a diamond and a pearl. She a goddess with a mentor, yeah. Cinnamon swirl. She relate to what I've been through, yeah. Queen of my world.